It was a peaceful morning in a small coastal town in Japan. The golden sunlight bathed the traditional wooden houses, and the streets bustled with life. People greeted each other warmly, children laughed as they played, and fishermen sold fresh seafood at the market. Inside a cozy wooden house, Haruto, a 35-year-old carpenter, was preparing breakfast for his 7-year-old daughter, Aiko. She swung her legs excitedly under the table, her big bright eyes filled with joy. "Dad, can we go to the beach to fly kites today?" Aiko asked eagerly. Haruto smiled and ruffled her hair. "Of course, after school." Under the table, a golden-furred dog wagged its tail happily. It was Shiro, their loyal companion since Aiko was born. "Shiro will come too." Aiko hugged the dog, giggling. Shiro barked as if to say yes, wagging his tail even harder. None of them knew that in just a few minutes, their world would change forever. The ground trembled slightly. The water in a glass on the table rippled. Then, a deafening roar erupted from the earth. Everything shook violently. Buildings collapsed, roads cracked, power lines snapped, and thick clouds of dust filled the air. People screamed in terror. Haruto grabbed Aiko. "We have to get out." He tried to run toward the door, but a wooden beam crashed down, blocking the exit. Shiro barked furiously and tugged at Haruto's pants, urging him to follow. Understanding immediately, Haruto followed Shiro to the back door. Just as they escaped, their house collapsed behind them. But there was no time to breathe. A loud siren blared from the coast. Haruto turned his head. And his heart froze. The ocean was receding unnaturally fast, exposing rocks and stranded fish. He knew what was coming. A tsunami. Gripping Aiko tightly, he shouted, "Run to higher ground." They ran, but the panicked crowd pushed and tripped over one another. Then, a monstrous roar filled the sky. A gigantic wave, higher than any building, rushed toward them. Shiro barked desperately, biting at Haruto's pants, pulling him forward. But it was too late. The wave swallowed everything. Haruto was swept away in the raging current. He held onto Aiko as tightly as he could, but the water was too strong. A massive wooden plank crashed into his head. Everything went black. When he regained consciousness, Haruto found himself floating among debris. The cold rain poured down on his wounded face. The town was gone. All that remained were broken homes and lifeless wreckage drifting in the water. Haruto staggered to his feet. "Aiko," he screamed. No answer. He searched through the ruins, frantically digging through debris. "Aiko." His voice was lost in the empty silence. As Haruto was about to collapse, a familiar sound echoed through the ruins. A bark. Shiro. The golden-furred dog, covered in dirt and wounds, ran toward him, wagging his tail and barking insistently. Haruto's heart pounded. "Did you find Aiko?" Shiro barked louder and took off running. Haruto followed without hesitation. Through the wreckage, over collapsed buildings and muddy streets, Shiro led him to a pile of debris. The dog barked and scratched at the rubble furiously. Haruto dropped to his knees, frantically pulling at the broken wood and concrete. Then, he heard it. A weak voice. "Dad." Haruto's breath caught. "Aiko." "I'm here." Under a collapsed concrete slab, Aiko lay trapped. Her face was pale, but her eyes fluttered open. She clutched something in her tiny hand. A leash tied around Shiro's collar. "Shiro stayed with me the whole time," she whispered. Tears welled in Haruto's eyes. He called for help. With the assistance of rescue volunteers, they lifted the heavy concrete and pulled Aiko out. Haruto hugged his daughter tightly, his tears falling onto her small shoulders. "I found you, because of Shiro, our brave boy." Shiro wagged his tail, exhausted but proud. A week later, the town began to rebuild. The survivors worked together, helping one another through the hardship. Haruto rebuilt his carpenter's workshop, determined to restore their home. Though still weak, Aiko smiled more often. She never left Shiro's side, hugging him whenever she could. Mizuki, a volunteer doctor, decided to stay and help the town recover. One evening, Haruto, Aiko, Mizuki, and Shiro stood on a hill, overlooking the town as it slowly came back to life under the golden sunset. Haruto whispered, "We lost so much, but thanks to kindness, loyalty, and hope, we can stand again." Shiro wagged his tail and barked, a triumphant sound. The town may have been destroyed, but the hearts of its people remained unshaken.